Welcome to the Cumbria Chamber of Commerce podcast, your regular update of business news and issues from around Cumbria. Find out how we support new business and help existing businesses to grow and flourish at cumbriachamber.co.uk. Now here's the Chamber's Business Engagement Manager, Julian Whittle, with the latest episode.
Hello, I'm here with Pete Cornwall, Business Liaison Officer at Lancaster University Management School. We'll call it LUMS for short, to talk about how LUMS can help businesses in Cumbria. Pete, tell me about the management school. I think you've got 6 departments. You've got a worldwide reputation. I suppose we're lucky to have an institution of the calibre of LUMS on our doorstep, aren't we?
Yeah, hi Julian. Yeah, we are really lucky. And it's a real asset to businesses in Cumbria and across the northwest and further afield as well. We talk about being a top 10 university and a globally significant management school. And then people instantly think we just work with big companies and want to just do the big stuff. Well, we do that, right? We have a good reputation for that. We've also got built into our DNA a real passion for working and engaging with SMEs.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that formally now for about 20 years. So 2019 was our 20th anniversary of celebrating that. And we've worked with over 3,700 businesses.
Really? Which
is a lot, isn't it?
Big number, yeah. And how many students do you have as well?
Oh, so students-wise, we're about 14,500 to 15,000 students.
Yeah, right. So
on
it's
campus.
It's substantial.
And that's quite an international mix as well.
Yeah, well...
So, yeah, we're because of our global reputation and our international campuses as well around the world. We've got one in Ghana, one in Leipzig, Germany. We've got a facility in Malaysia and in China as well. So we're really an international body and a real asset, like I say, for people to tap into that.
Oh, okay. Well, let's look at some of the specific programs that you offer, which are available to SMEs in Cumbria through our Cumbria Business Growth Hub. Firstly, there's Cumbria Forum. Talk about what that is and what it involves.
So the Cumbria Forum is a 6-month programme for leaders of SMEs in Cumbria who are looking to grow their business. It's a programme we've been running for a wee while now, and it's built on the back of a learning model that we developed called the Integrated Learning Model. And the Cumbria Forum is its simplest version of that. It's in a nutshell, it's a peer network. So bringing together a group of between 15 and 20 leaders of Cumbrian businesses and taking them through a 6-month programme of workshops. So nice and snappy, 1-day workshops, getting you to think about your business. So working on it rather than in it.
What sort of topics do these workshops cover then?
So we look at things like leadership. We look at innovation and growth strategies. There's a session looking at your business model, and also we do a company visit as well. So we go to an exemplar company in Cumbria and go and see what they've done. And they're the ones that are slightly bigger, moving out of being in that SME space, or even some of them a lot larger. But we look at one that's really interesting and has something to show that we can all learn from.
And are the workshops delivered by academics from the university?
Yeah, a mix of academics from the university and other facilitators that we've worked with. And they're delivered in a way that the delegates can interact with each other. So it's not sitting through an academic lecture. Yeah. We're very good at doing that. We're a top 10 university. We can do that all day long. This is designed so it's for people who are busy in their business to take a day to step back, to think about some of the things that we know they should be thinking about. And, in a group, you could have any type of business in that group, from a PR company, we've had food manufacturing, we've had legal, logistics, all within one cohort. Now you look at them and go, these guys have nothing in common. Well, they're all growing a small business in Cumbria. So they've all got the same challenges of skills, of financing and that kind of thing. So by getting them to think about it and sharing their experience with each other, it's really powerful.
Well, I mean, you mentioned it's been going a wee while. I think 2016 you started Cumbria Forum. So you've got experience from talking to participants. What are they saying they got out of it?
It's really interesting when we talk to them because they all come back with something slightly different. But a lot of it's based around, and common themes that come back are looking at things like some space for them to think about their strategy, for a space away from their business. It gives them a chance to explore their ideas. In a safe, friendly group, because they work with the same people every month. So they get people challenging them and people thinking, well, I could grow my business a little bit. And people going, you could do a lot with this. You've got a real opportunity. And it helps them to open their eyes and open their mind to what they can really do with their business. And they're having that space to think about growth strategy and being challenged on it. So that's what they take away from it, that space to sort of really expand their business. I
mean, I've interviewed some businesses that take part, and one of the things that I often hear from them is that it can be quite a lonely or, an isolating experience when you're and being able to talk to other businesses, not necessarily, in the same sector, but facing similar challenges, that peer-to-peer thing you talked about earlier is really invaluable too.
Absolutely, yeah, Julian. There's one of the groups that we did in the last round of Growth Hub funding, so probably, I think they did the cohort in 2016, 17, something like that, if I remember rightly. And there was a group of them who were based around Kendal, who didn't really know each other before doing the programme. But because they built that relationship and that trust network during that programme, they now still meet informally and fairly regularly. But they kind of went, actually, we've got this group of people who we can come together with and talk about and share some of those ideas. And it's not as isolating. So if there's something going on in the business, they can bring it to that group and say, this is what's happening in my business. I've got this opportunity. What do people think? Yeah. Rather than sitting there and worrying about it, going, how am I going to make this happen?
Yeah, and wasting time trying to use it. Yeah. So when does the next Cumbria Forum programme start and what's the cost?
I'll start with the cost because that's the easy bit. Yeah. The cost is fully funded thanks to the Growth Hub. So I shouldn't say free.
If you qualify, if you meet the criteria,
it doesn't cost you anything at point of use, and it's paid for through European Regional Development Fund with the Growth Hub. We started the first cohort of the current round started in November, just gone, and there's a really nice group there, and we're starting to pull together the cohort that will start at the end of April. Right. So right at the end of April, we're starting, and we've got some places still available. In the run-up to that, we've also got a masterclass coming up as well. So as part of the programme, like I said, we have the peer network, the workshops, we have masterclasses. Now, some of those are delivered at Lancaster, and we bring in industry leaders and we deliver that series. We're also bringing some on the road to Cumbria. So in 2019, autumn 2019, we had Wilfred Emmanuel Jones from Black Farmer Sausages came and talked at Penrith, and really, really excited that we're going to have Sean Wayne, who was head coach at Wigan Warriors when they won everything. Sean's coming to do a masterclass for us at the end of February over in Workington or near Workington, and we're just tying up all the information, and that'll be going out very, very shortly. And Sean's fantastic, talks about winning cultures, developing that winning culture within teams, selecting the right people and creating those cultures. And he brings a real life story. Obviously a rugby league player who played at Workington Town as well towards the end of his career. So he's got a bit of a connection to the region.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that the lessons from sport can be applied in business. I've come across that before. Moving on though, I mean, you've launched quite recently, you launched the Made Smarter Leadership Programme. Now, that's aimed at manufacturing businesses, isn't it? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the Made Smarter Leadership Programme is part of the Made Smarter project that covers the whole of the Northwest. And if anybody who's in manufacturing hasn't heard of Made Smarter, they need to get online quick and have a look. You know as well as I do, it's a fantastic project that manufacturers need to be taking advantage of. There's different elements to it. There's some placements and internships through the universities across the Northwest to bring in young graduates and undergraduates to come and add to your skills. There's also the really interesting bit of the grant funding, so people can have some match funding towards new technology and equipment in their manufacturing business. And then the bit that we're involved with at the university is the leadership programme. And part of the Made Smarter review highlighted the need for improvement within leadership, within manufacturing, particularly when looking at adopting Industry 4.0 technologies. And that's where we come in, because we've got that experience of working with manufacturers around change and some of the other programmes that hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about today. And we bring together, again, it's based around a cohort, so it's trying to create those networks for leaders to take the time to think about their digital strategy and their digital journey. Because for some people, it can be really scary. The idea that you see a factory on TV that's had millions and millions of pounds spent on it, and it's all shiny white robots. Great. But if you're a manufacturer in West Cumbria, and you're looking at it and thinking, well, we're nowhere near that. How do we get to that? The Made Smarter programme is there to help you to think about your digital journey and how you're going to lead that change in the business. So we're not doing a whole load of training on the tech, because there's loads of support around the programme, around the project for that, with the the technology advisors that are part of it. What we're doing is that piece of how do you lead that change in your business. And actually we had one of our delegates on the current programme, and I was sat in on one of their sessions recently, and he was talking about he'd had his light bulb moment. And we talk about light bulb moments. It's where and you see it happen in every cohort. Almost every delegate has a light bulb moment at some point. And the group that I was sat with just a few days ago, one of our Cumbrian delegates, like I said, had his light bulb moment where he realised it all came together, and he was starting to be able to develop his digitalisation strategy in line with his whole business strategy. And that will then help him to go on to develop his application for the grant funding, because he knows now what he needs and where he needs it. So having that clarity in that space, and you get to come and hear from some fantastic people. So we've got Professor Steve Kempster, who's developed the programme with us, who's excellent experience, and Steve Eldridge, who's very heavily involved with the programme as well, who brings a lot of experience from the manufacturing sector. But then we bring in facilitators and people who've got links to the university, and people like Sean McElveen. And again, a lot of the listeners won't have heard of him, but he's been head of HR with Ford UK. He's been part of Rolls-Royce aerospace manufacturing globally. He's got that global perspective, but he really understands SME. And I sat in on one of his sessions recently with the current cohort, and he was really challenging them, but getting them to share their ideas with each other as well. So there's people bouncing ideas off each other in this really friendly collective environment, hearing from somebody who's got that global perspective and bigger picture perspective as well. So really interesting programme.
I mean, it is a fairly new programme. Are there practical examples yet of businesses that have applied what they've learnt and embraced new digital technologies?
I think at the moment we're still, as we record this, we're still a little bit early stage, because the first group only started in June, so they're about 2/3 of the way through. So they're just starting to come through that. I think, like I said, the chap over in West Cumbria who's been on the programme, who's had that light bulb moment where he's starting to go, right, now I know what I need to be doing and how to do it. So beforehand he's going to go, this is a whole minefield of information, and how do I process what I want to do and when. Having that moment of clarity to be able to see it has been valuable. But there'll be further stories coming out of that, I'm sure.
And is it like Cumbria Forum? Is this a funded programme? Is it free to qualifying businesses?
It's part funded, so it's more intensive than the Cumbria Forum. So you're looking at about 2 days a month in terms of time commitment, and there's some action learning sets built around it as well. So there's a bit more in it than there is in the Cumbria Forum. It's part subsidised through the Made Smarter project, and the cost for eligible businesses, which again is an SME manufacturer based in the Northwest, the cost for them is £2,500.
And when's the next cohort that they can join?
So the next cohort's going to be starting with a light touch webinar at the end of January 2020, and then the full induction starts in late February 2020. So it's a perfect time to be talking to us.
So absolutely, no time to waste to get on with that one.
Not at all.
Okay, now you also have the Innovation Development Programme, which is aimed at senior decision makers within SMEs. How does that work?
So the Innovation Development Programme is part of the Cumbria Innovations Platform, where Lancaster University, working with University of Cumbria, are helping Cumbrian businesses to be innovative. There were some statistics that were shared a few years ago, and looked at Cumbria as a LEP area, that our level of innovation compared to other parts of the country wasn't where it could be. However, we know, you know this as well as I do, journeying from your way, there are some really innovative companies in the county.
Absolutely.
And companies who are hungry for innovation and hungry to innovate. So it's there to support those people. Now, again, like a lot of these things, there's different elements to it. There's some light touch workshops with the University of Cumbria that have been very interesting and very, very successful, and they're dip in, dip out. There's some support from placements and internships as well with the universities. And then there's a development programme, which is, again, based around the same learning framework, but different content. So again, to think about innovation. And what we do with that is we're looking at bringing together people who want to innovate. Now, that doesn't have to be somebody making the new iPhone. It doesn't have to be the biggest change in the world. It can be. They want to change the way they do things. And we take them through, again, within a peer network, and getting them to challenge each other's ideas and bouncing viewpoints around, getting them to think about what they do and looking at creating a culture of innovation. Innovation in practice. So what does it actually mean in your business to do that? And then how are you going to put those ideas into action? And is your business plan going to be able to be dynamic enough to meet the opportunities that presents? So that's it really at the moment. It's been really, really exciting to see some of those companies go through it.
Because this is another, like Cumbria Forum, this has been around for a while, hasn't it? So presumably we've got some examples of how businesses have benefited from it.
Yeah, it is. We've had 3 cohorts go through it at the moment, and we've got some really interesting examples of people and businesses that maybe people wouldn't think of what they're doing as being innovation in the bigger sense, but it definitely is, because it's new products coming to market. There's Liz Beavis, who is the managing director at Financial Management Bureau down in Kendal. And I'm guessing quite a few people will be familiar with that business. And Liz came on the programme a couple of years ago now, probably about 18 months ago, and was looking at, one of her challenges is, how do you encourage people who wouldn't normally look to a financial advisory company to engage with them and work with them? And she was looking at how they could do that, and developed a financial education package through some of the ideas. But then it helped her to take that into reality. So she used and worked with one of the other delegates and their company to test it, so to trial it with the companies. Because why wouldn't you? If we built a report, why wouldn't you say, look, you've got a new idea, come and test it with us? Of course you can. So she tested it, and it's worked. It's come together really nicely. And as these things move on, and it's they've developed a new product that's been launched around the 3 different stages of life. So their Flourish, Prosper and Thrive product and service came as a result of some of the support that Liz had to help her to make that come to reality. There's another one as well that comes to mind, of a slightly different one. EJ Jordan and a chap called Colin Shelbourne, based again, South Cumbria based, and they make really, really high tech, high value audio speakers. Really cool stuff, really interesting stuff. And Colin had little links with the university before and done bits and pieces with us, and he did the programme and was helping him to realise that actually he doesn't have to just copy and be better than somebody else. He can have his differentiator, what makes him special. And inspired by some of the examples that came out through the workshops, helps him to understand what he needs to do to create that competitive advantage by demonstrating why he's so good. The programme also then helped to reconnect him to some of the facilities and access to facilities at the university. We're very, very lucky at Lancaster. We've got our campus just down the motorway, and it's got an engineering department, it's got a physical sciences department that Colin had some interaction with before, but it reconnected him. So again, he did some physical project work with the engineering department to help him to develop new ideas and some of his new technologies.
Fantastic.
So it's that opportunity that's there to go, look, Lancaster as a university is open to businesses. We want them to come through the door. And someone like Colin, who's been through something with the management school and something with engineering, is fantastic. And there's opportunity for people all over it.
Okay, and are you recruiting now, are you, for a new intake for that?
Well, we are. We're looking at doing a specialist food and drink programme that'll be starting in early 2020. And as we're talking at the moment, in a really good news, it looks like that's fully subscribed.
Oh,
so,
really?
So it's almost a bit of a look what you could have won. But again, if people are interested in that, well, come and talk to us, because there are still other ways we can support around innovation. It's one of our key themes that we work on. And hopefully the funding as it is at the moment, that's how it's packaged for now. But hopefully if we can get an extension on that funding, and we'll see what happens into 2020 and beyond.
Okay. Now, improving productivity is a huge issue for businesses at the moment. It's particularly pertinent in Cumbria because, our working age population is shrinking. So if you're a business, you're having to look at ways of doing more with fewer people. Now, you have a programme that can help there too, haven't you?
We do. This sounds a little bit like we've got a whole suite of things we can do. And we do have, exactly. You're teeing us up very nicely. The Productivity Through People programme is really interesting. We've been working on that. We launched it. It started the first cohort in early 2017. So we've been talking about it now for a few years. The fourth group started in autumn 2019. And again, it's built around the idea of a peer network. It's similar to Made Smarter in that it's more intense. So the Cumbria Forum that we talked about earlier is the light touch version. It's the easiest first step in, first toe in the water with that style of learning. The Productivity Through People programme, again, brings together a group of manufacturing leaders from across the Northwest. It's a little bit different, and it's really interesting because we've got 3 sponsors. It forms part of Be the Business that, again, a lot of people will be familiar with. But our 3 sponsors here in the Northwest that we developed it with are Rolls-Royce, over at Barn Oldswick is their site here, but their aerospace side. BAE, and the aerospace stuff at Samlesbury and Wharton, and also Siemens, who again have a presence in the county as well. And rather than us just giving examples, we also look at case studies, live case studies in their businesses. So we go on site, each of the modules that the people go through. There are 4 modules in there. One's around creating the peer network and doing a benchmarking assessment. So they go through a process very early in the program where they benchmark themselves where they are now. And that's a tool they can keep using as they go on. So again, it's this idea we give them a toolbox of things they can keep coming back to. And then we take them through 3 modules. Each one of those is attached to one of the industrial partners. So we go and see what's happening in their world and talk about and look at it on the factory floor and hear about it from the senior leaders. Wrapped around the program with the workshops as well, there's also mentoring from senior leaders as well.
From the sponsors?
From the sponsors,
yeah.
So, and we're seeing now that we're looking back to some of the earlier cohorts of those mentor-mentee relationships. Not all of them, but some of those have stuck and are staying together where there's added value ongoing. There's also action learning groups as well, which is a deeper trust network as part of the program. And that, again, we see that those stay together. I was talking to a delegate that did the LEAD program, which we used to run way back in 2008. I think he finished LEAD, and their action learning group still meets. So there's that value of keeping that peer network there. It also forms part of a national network with Be the Business. So since we developed it and launched it in 2016-17, it's since been rolled out at Bath University, Aston and Strathclyde. So there's a real community of manufacturing leaders who are looking at their productivity challenge and working together around it, sharing ideas, bouncing ideas off. And we've got a really nice collection coming in Cumbria. I think the current group that's working through has, I think it's got 4 people out of 17 that are from Cumbria. So we've got a really nice group, plus some others that have been on previous cohorts. So there's a really nice group of a community of forward-thinking.
That's very encouraging.
Leaders, yeah.
And is that a fully funded or a part-funded program? And when can businesses get involved next?
So it's part funded, and it's £2,500, like the Made Smarter programme. We're looking that we're hoping that the next group will be starting in autumn 2020.
Right.
But like a lot of these things, there's not a bad time to start the conversation. Again, it's quite intense. You're looking at a couple of days a month over a 10-month period. So there's for £2,500, it's incredible value, and the learning that we've seen come out of it, and the people who we've seen it, the productivity improvements that have been recorded by some of the businesses, including one in Cumbria in particular, have been incredible.
Really?
Yeah, some really interesting, some quick things that have changed. But other people who are talking about, a chap I'm thinking of in North Lancashire, who's reported and talked about some real change that he's made in his business as a result of the learning he's had through the Productivity Through People programme. And like I say, a bit of a cohort of Cumbrian leaders who've gone through it. There will be an interesting conversation at some point as well. Okay.
And you've got a new programme coming in 2020. It's targeted specifically at family businesses.
Yeah, that's the hot off the press. If it's even off the press, I'm not sure if it is.
Oh, it's an exclusive.
it might well
podcast be. Exclusive.
Yeah, it might well be. It's we're using part of the Cumbria Forum to deliver some activity for family businesses. We know that family businesses make up a huge part of our economy, and that they have their own unique challenges. They are different to other businesses. They have their strengths, but there's some challenges that go with that. Lancaster University Management School has a research centre focused on family business, so the Centre for Family Business.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we've got a research hub there that's one of the main research hubs in Europe, and has really strong links elsewhere. Who are looking at those things, the challenges that family businesses face that other businesses don't necessarily face, or looking at those challenges through
succession planning.
Succession planning is a massive one. Yeah, and we know that there's some. Through the reports that have come out around productivity, that if you look at that productivity lag, the family businesses lag further back in there as well in some of the productivity improvements and things. So there's a need to do something. And we've been running a programme. We trialled it in Lancashire in 2019, and the second cohort started not just at the back end of 2019 in Lancashire, and we're going to be bringing that programme into Cumbria. So that's going to be fully funded. And it's a bit different. So at the moment, with things like the Cumbria Forum, we think of bringing 1 delegate per business. With this one, we're encouraging people to bring 2 delegates. So it could be 2 generations. So it could be mum and son, or it could be a couple who want to come along and think, well, how are we going to make this generational change? And we've had on the group that's just recently started in Lancashire, the interesting dynamic of a family member and a non-family member. So senior leader who's a non-family member in the business. And taking them through those through that programme and getting them to look at the different ways that that they can think about they're growing their business from a family business perspective. Really interesting groups come through.
And do you have a launch date yet for this?
That programme's going to be starting, at the moment it's penciled into our timeline for 2020 to start in the autumn 2020. But again, we're starting to talk to people already about it, and we're having those conversations now to make sure that people have it in the back of their mind, because we're wanting to have 2 people out of the business for about a day a month. That needs to be planned into a business's into their year, into their workloads. But it's something that's really interesting.
Now, one other thing I wanted to ask about. I know you touched on it when we were talking about the Innovation Development Programme, and that's the possibility for businesses to take undergraduate or even postgraduate students on internships or placements. How can they do that?
Well, we've got 14 and a bit thousand students, so we've got some opportunity, and they're really, really smart, and they're really enthusiastic. So there's different ways we can engage with our students. There's the obvious things of placements and internships. Now, some of those, just a bit of clarity on language. If we're talking about internships, that's the shorter term things, the sort of 3 months-ish, or up to about that sort of period. And there's opportunities for those to be fully funded, so the business doesn't have to pay anything, but it gets covered by funding from various different places. And if we went into that, we'd be here all day. Then there's placements. So having a student work in your business for 10 to 12 months, that sandwich year, the gap year part that we can do. And more of our students are taking that on. And we're quite keen to encourage some of that with SME. And a lot of them go to the big companies you'd expect. But we know that we see the ones who go to SME, or the ones that are looking at SME, that they get such a rich experience. So there's some opportunities in that, and it's really easy for them to for people to contact the university, either coming back to me or through our careers team.
So typically, what sort of projects do they work? Because usually you would bring in somebody with a specific remit, wouldn't you? I think.
So if we're looking at things like placements, it's often coming into a defined role. So it could be, the easiest one to talk about is marketing. So you're coming in and saying, have a marketing assistant for 10, 12 months. And you have to pay them for that, but give them graduate type level work. And that's somebody who's going to be active in your business. There'll be a bit of coaching, a bit of support, as you'd expect. But, have a bright young person in your business thinking about new ideas.
Bursting with enthusiasm and wanting to make a good impression.
And they've got all the latest theory and they want to apply it. Wow, what a great thing to have. If you're looking at things like some of the internships, we've had experience of people having those with particular projects. And again, if we think about marketing, looking at things like a social media project or a new website project, and getting students to take through that, but rather than doing it as say 140 hours in one block, spreading that out over the life of the project. So they dip in and out as needs be. And we have some of our engineering students do similar kind of things. And those, we can do these within just with the management school, but across campus as well. So there's a lot that go in with our Faculty of Science and Technology. So that's your engineers, your physicists, your chemists, your computer science guys. So there's loads of opportunity in there. The other bit that we do as well that a lot of people don't realise is our student consultancy project. So that differs from your placements and internships.
Right.
And again, they take place at different points across campus. In the management school, there's over 100 take place every single year. And that's getting a group of students as part of their curriculum within a module. They'll do a consulting project within some of the modules. So we run those throughout the year. They sit at fixed points in the calendar because they sit in modules. But you can have a group of students, typically between 2 and 5 students, working on a particular challenge in your business. And it's essentially the idea that you can get some research done. Now, because it's part of their programme of study, you only have to pay for any expenses that are incurred. So I had a group of students a few years ago working with me and Kerry, our marketing lady, and they were looking at how we engage with Cumbrian businesses. So we got 6 students for about 20 weeks, one of the longest projects that's available from the university. And they did some focus groups, they did some questionnaires with Cumbrian business people we'd worked with, people we'd spoken to and had never worked with, and people we'd never touched. And it was really interesting to hear the kind of things and the messages that they would respond to. And it's the stuff that Kerry and I were really, really busy. We didn't have the time to do that.
Yeah.
It's that idea to
and
go
that
and do
helps
it.
refine your offer to them.
Yeah, exactly. And we've had all sorts of people. We had one company that were looking at feasibility studies on their next site to be opened. So they were looking at opening another office in another location, and they got a group of students and kind of went, well, look, we want to be about an hour from where we are now, in a similar kind of geography in terms of population. Where's the best place for us to go?
Right, yeah.
Get them to do the legwork, because you're too busy servicing your clients and keeping the business going. Yeah. So it's a really nice opportunity.
A lot of businesses could use that, I would guess. I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, some really interesting stuff there.
Thanks, Pete. That's been a very interesting discussion, very helpful.
Thank you.
For more information on any of the programmes we've been discussing, take a look at the Cumbria Business Growth Hub website, www.cumbriagrowthhub.co.uk, or call us on 0844 257 8450.
Thank you for listening to the Cumbria Chamber of Commerce podcast. You can find out more about how we're supporting Cumbrian businesses at cumbriachamber.co.uk and cumbriagrowthhub.co.uk. In the meantime, thank you very much for listening, and watch out for the next episode, which we'll be releasing very soon.